Deafening explosions shook the ground as Sarah raced through the darkened subway tunnels, her ragged breaths echoing against the concrete walls. The air was thick with the stench of smoke and decay, a suffocating miasma that clawed at her lungs. Above, the monstrous screams of the infected reverberated, a nightmarish cacophony that sent icy tendrils of fear crawling down her spine. Asterisk, they're coming. We have to keep moving. Asterisk, Paul shouted, his voice strained with panic as he sprinted alongside her, clutching a bloodied baseball bat in a white-knuckled grip. Sarah's heart pounded in her ears, every pulsing beat a desperate plea to outrun the horror that pursued them. The once familiar tunnels had become a labyrinth of shadows and debris, the eerie silence punctuated only by the distant howls of the undead. Asterisk, where are the others? Asterisk, she gasped, her gaze darting frantically between the dark passages. Asterisk, I don't know, Asterisk, Paul admitted, his face etched with anguish. Asterisk, we got separated back there. We have to keep going. Asterisk. A sudden, gut-wrenching scream shattered the air, cutting him off mid-sentence. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized the voice. Mia, one of the young survivors they had found cowering in an abandoned station. Without a moment's hesitation, Sarah veered off, ignoring Paul's desperate pleas to stay on course. She raced towards the sound, her mind consumed by a single terrifying thought. Asterisk, I can't let another 1D asterisk. Rounding a corner, she skidded to a halt, her eyes widening in horror at the scene unfolding before her. Maya lay on the ground, her small body thrashing as a grotesque, mutated figure loomed over her. Thick, ropey tendrils had erupted from the creature's back, whipping and coiling around Mia's limbs, holding her in a nightmarish embrace. Asterisk, no. Asterisk, Sarah screamed, her voice raw with anguish. She charged forward, swinging her crowbar with all her might, but the creature's reflexes were lightning fast. It whirled around, its jaws gaping wide, and Sarah had just enough time to see the rows of serrated teeth before the world went black. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Pain lanced through Sarah's skull as she slowly regained consciousness, her vision blurry and disoriented. The acrid stench of smoke stung her nostrils, and the faint drip of water echoed in the darkness. Asterisk, Mia? Asterisk, she croaked, her throat dry and cracked. Asterisk, Paul. Asterisk. Silence. Panic gripped her as she struggled to her feet, her hands fumbling in the darkness. Asterisk, where am? Asterisk, she reached into her pocket, fingers closing around the small flashlight she had salvaged days ago. With a trembling hand, she clicked it on, the feeble beam illuminating the narrow confines of the tunnel. Asterisk, go. God, asterisk, she whispered, her heart sinking as she took in the scene. The twisted, mutilated remains of the creature lay nearby, its grotesque limbs strewn across the floor. But Mia was nowhere to be seen. A sudden movement caught her eye, and she whirled around, the flashlight beam dancing across the shadows. There, huddled in the corner, was Paul, his face pale and his eyes wide with terror. Asterisk, Sarah. Asterisk, he gasped, scrambling to his feet. Asterisk. You're alive. Asterisk. Asterisk, what happened? Asterisk, she demanded, her voice shaking. Asterisk. Where's Maya? Asterisk. Paul's expression crumpled, and he shook his head slowly. Asterisk, I couldn't save her, asterisk, he choked out. Asterisk, the creature, it. Asterisk, he trailed off, his gaze haunted. Sarah felt her knees buckle, the weight of Mia's death crushing her. But there was no time to grieve. The distant sounds of the infected echoed through the tunnel, a grim reminder of the nightmare that continued to unfold above. Asterisk, we have to keep moving. Asterisk, she said, her voice hardening with resolve. Asterisk, there's no time to waste. Asterisk. As they pressed on into the darkness, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the true horror had only just begun. The tunnels were a labyrinth of shadows and debris, every step a perilous gamble as Sarah and Paul navigated the eerie darkness. The air was thick with the stench of decay and the distant echoes of the infected, a constant reminder of the nightmare that raged above. Asterisk, we need to find a way out of these tunnels, asterisk, Sarah said, her voice low and strained. Asterisk. The longer we stay down here, the more danger we'll be in. Asterisk. Paul nodded, his face etched with exhaustion and fear. Asterisk. But where do we go? I don't even know where we are anymore. Asterisk. Sarah swept the feeble beam of her flashlight across the tunnel, searching for any sign of an exit. The walls seemed to close in around them, the oppressive silence punctuated only by the drip of water and the distant, unearthly howls of the infected. Suddenly, a faint glimmer of light caught her eye, flickering in the distance. Asterisk there. Asterisk, she exclaimed, her heart racing with renewed hope. Asterisk, that looks like an exit up ahead. Asterisk. Without hesitation, they pressed forward, their footsteps echoing against the concrete as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Sarah kept her eyes trained on the distant light, a flicker of optimism flaring in her chest. But as they drew closer, her steps slowed, a chill of dread settling in the pit of her stomach. The light was not the warm glow of an exit, but the eerie, sickly green glow of something far more sinister. Asterisk, wait. Asterisk, she whispered, holding up a hand to stop Paul. Asterisk, something's not right. Asterisk. They crept forward cautiously, the light growing brighter with each step. And then, in the sickly green gloom, they saw it. A massive, hulking figure, its body contorted and mutated, its massive jaws gaping wide. Asterisk, run. Asterisk, Paul shouted, but Sarah was frozen, her eyes locked on the creature's hideously deformed face. The creature let out a bone-chilling roar, its massive body lurching forward with startling speed. Sarah felt Paul's hand on her arm, dragging her backwards, but she was paralyzed with terror, unable to tear her gaze away from the advancing horror. And then, just as the creature was about to descend upon them, a deafening explosion rocked the tunnel, sending debris and shrapnel hurtling through the air. Sarah and Paul were thrown to the ground, their ears ringing, as the creature let out a guttural scream and retreated back into the shadows. Through the chaos, Sarah caught a glimpse of a figure emerging from the rubble, a familiar face silhouetted against the flickering green light. Asterisk, Mia. Asterisk, she breathed, her voice barely audible over the ringing in her ears. But as the figure drew closer, Sarah's heart sank. It was not Mia, but a stranger, a woman, her eyes wild and her clothing tattered, clutching a rifle in her trembling hands. Asterisk, who are you? Asterisk, the woman demanded, her voice laced with panic. Asterisk, what the hell is going on? Asterisk. Sarah and Paul exchanged a desperate glance, realizing that their nightmare had only just begun. Sarah and Paul stared at the woman, their expressions a mix of relief and trepidation. The sickly green glow of the tunnel illuminated her haggard features, her eyes wild and her grip on the rifle unwavering. Asterisk, we're survivors, asterisk, Sarah said, her voice trembling. Asterisk, like you. We were trying to find a way out of these tunnels when... Asterisk. A deafening roar cut her off, the sound reverberating through the darkness. The hulking, mutated creature they had encountered earlier emerged from the shadows, its massive body blocking the path ahead. Asterisk, get behind me. Asterisk, the woman shouted, leveling her rifle. Asterisk, call hold it off, asterisk. Sarah and Paul scrambled to obey, their hearts pounding as the woman opened fire, the thunderous report of the weapon echoing through the tunnel. Bullets tore into the creature's flesh, but it seemed impervious to the assault, its gargantuan form surging forward with relentless determination. Asterisk, it's not working. Asterisk, the woman cried, her voice laced with panic. Asterisk, we have to run asterisk. They turned and fled, the deafening roars of the creature spurring them onward. Sarah's lungs burned, her legs aching. But she refused to slow, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, fueling her desperate sprint. As they rounded a corner, a glimmer of hope appeared in the form of a metal ladder, leading up to a hatch in the ceiling. Asterisk there. Asterisk, Paul shouted, pointing. Asterisk, that could be our way out, asterisk. Without hesitation, the trio scrambled up the ladder, their fingers clawing at the rungs as they ascended. Sarah could feel the breath of the creature on her heels, its massive form barreling toward them, and she prayed that the hatch would give them the escape they so desperately needed. With a final, desperate leap, Sarah burst through the hatch, tumbling out onto the street above. Paul and the woman followed close behind, and they quickly slammed the hatch shut, sealing the monstrous creature below. For a moment, they stood in stunned silence, their chests heaving, their eyes wide with the realization of their narrow escape. The air above was thick with the acrid stench of smoke and the distant wails of the infected, a grim reminder of the hellish landscape that awaited them. Asterisk, what the hell was that thing? Asterisk, the woman demanded, her gaze burning with a mixture of fear and determination. Sarah shook her head, her mind reeling. Asterisk, I don't know. Asterisk, she admitted. Asterisk, but we have to keep moving. The longer we stay out in the open, the more danger we'll be in. Asterisk. The woman nodded, her grip tightening on her rifle. Asterisk, lead the way then. I'll watch your backs. Asterisk. As they set off into the devastated city, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the true horror was only just beginning to unfold. The streets were a nightmare of twisted metal and crumbling debris, the air thick with the stench of smoke and decay. Sarah, Paul, and the mysterious woman with the rifle pressed onward, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. Asterisk, where are we even going? Asterisk, the woman asked, her voice hushed. Asterisk, I don't know. Asterisk, Sarah admitted, her gaze darting nervously around the devastated landscape. Asterisk, we need to find a safe place to regroup, to figure out what the hell is happening. Asterisk. A sudden movement in the distance caught her eye, and she froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Asterisk, wait. Asterisk, she whispered, holding up a hand. Asterisk, do you see that? Asterisk. In the distance, a swarm of figures emerged from the shadows, their movements jerky and unnatural. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she recognized the telltale signs of the infected, the glassy, vacant stares, the unnaturally contorted limbs. Asterisk. Get down. Asterisk, the woman hissed, raising her rifle. Asterisk. I'll hold them off. Asterisk. Sarah and Paul ducked behind a broken concrete barrier, their eyes fixed on the advancing horde. The woman opened fire, her shots echoing through the deserted streets, but the infected seemed unfazed, their numbers only growing as more of the twisted, mutated creatures joined the fray. Asterisk. It's no use. Asterisk, the woman cried, her voice laced with desperation. Asterisk. We have to find another way, asterisk. Sarah's mind raced, searching for any means of escape. Her gaze fell upon a half-collapsed building, its crumbling facade offering a potential path to higher ground. Asterisk there. Asterisk, she exclaimed, pointing. Asterisk. We can try to reach the roof. Maybe we can lose them up there. Asterisk. Without waiting for a response, she and Paul darted across the rubble-strewn street, the woman providing cover fire as they ran. They clambered over the debris, their fingers clawing at the crumbling mortar, and reached the relative safety of the rooftop just as the horde surged forward. Gasping for breath, they peered down at the infected below, their twisted forms swarming around the building like a malevolent tide. Asterisk, we can't stay here. Asterisk, the woman said, her voice strained. Asterisk. They'll find a way up eventually. Asterisk. Sarah nodded, her mind racing. Asterisk. Then we need to keep moving. There has to be another way out of this nightmare. Asterisk. As they scanned the horizon, a glimmer of hope appeared in the distance. The silhouette of a tall building, its upper floors seemingly intact. Asterisk that way. Asterisk, Sarah said, her voice laced with determination. Asterisk. If we can make it there, maybe we can find a way to escape this hellish city. Asterisk. Without another word, they set off across the rooftops, their footsteps quick and sure as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The infected below howled and clawed at the walls, but the survivors pressed on, driven by a desperate need to find a safe haven in the midst of the unfolding apocalypse. The trio moved with a sense of urgency, their footsteps echoing across the rooftops as they raced towards the distant building. The infected below swarmed and clawed at the crumbling walls, their cries and snarls a constant, terrifying reminder of the danger that lurked in the shadows. Asterisk, we need to be careful. Asterisk, the woman warned, her rifle at the ready. Asterisk, those things are relentless, and I'm not sure how much ammunition I have left. Asterisk. Sarah nodded, her gaze scanning the rooftops for any sign of potential hazards. Asterisk. We'll have to move quickly and quietly. There's no telling what else might be out there. Asterisk. As they reached the edge of the building, they paused, peering down at the streets below. The scene was one of utter devastation. Rubble and debris littered the ground, and the infected swarmed like a plague of locusts, their grotesque forms twisting and writhing as they searched for prey. Asterisk. Jessus. Asterisk, the woman breathed, her eyes narrowing as she took in the grim sight. Asterisk. This whole city's gone to hell. Asterisk. Sarah felt a pang of despair, the weight of their situation pressing down on her. Asterisk. We have to keep moving. Asterisk, she said, her voice steeled with determination. Asterisk. There's no going back. Asterisk. They made their way across the rooftops, their steps cautious and measured, keeping a keen eye out for any signs of danger. The eerie silence was broken only by the distant echoes of the infected, a constant reminder of the horrors that lurked below. Suddenly, a deafening crash shattered the stillness, and Sarah whirled around to see a massive, hulking figure emerging from the shadows. The mutated creature they had encountered in the tunnels below now stood before them, its gaping maw dripping with viscous fluid. Asterisk. Run. Asterisk, the woman yelled, opening fire with her rifle. But the creature's reflexes were lightning fast, and it swatted the bullets aside with ease, its roar shaking the very foundations of the building. Sarah and Paul fled, their lungs burning as they raced across the rooftops, the creature in pursuit. They could hear the woman's desperate cries as she fought to hold the monster at bay, but her shots seemed to have little effect. As they reached the edge of the building, Sarah's heart sank. The next rooftop was too far to leap, and the infected swarmed below, waiting to devour any who dared to fall. Asterisk, we're trapped. Asterisk, Paul cried, his voice laced with panic. Sarah's mind raced, searching for a way out, when a glimmer of hope appeared in the form of a fire escape, its rusted metal ladder dangling tantalizingly close. Asterisk, this way. Asterisk, she shouted, already scrambling down the precarious structure. Paul followed without hesitation, and they descended, their fingers clawing at the rungs as they fled the pursuing creature. As they reached the ground, a deafening crash behind them told them that the creature had not given up the chase. Adrenaline surging, they ran, their desperate flight leading them deeper into the heart of the nightmare that had consumed their city. Sarah and Paul raced through the desolate streets, their lungs burning as they fled the hulking, mutated creature that pursued them. The ground shook with each of the monster's thunderous steps, and they could hear its guttural roars echoing through the abandoned buildings. Asterisk, where are we going? Asterisk, Paul panted, his voice laced with desperation. Asterisk, I don't know. Asterisk, Sarah replied, her gaze darting frantically as she searched for any semblance of a safe haven. Asterisk, we just have to keep moving, get as far away from that thing as possible. Asterisk. They rounded a corner, only to be confronted by a swarm of the infected, their twisted, grasping forms shambling towards them. Sarah felt her heart sink. They were trapped, with the monstrous creature at their backs and the horde of the undead closing in. Asterisk go. God? Asterisk, Paul whispered, his eyes wide with terror. Just as the infected were about to descend upon them, a sudden explosion rocked the ground, sending debris and shrapnel hurtling through the air. Sarah and Paul ducked for cover, shielding their faces as the blast wave swept over them. When the dust settled, they cautiously peered out, and to their astonishment, the infected lay motionless on the ground, their grotesque forms torn and mangled. And standing in the middle of the carnage, her rifle still smoking, was the mysterious woman they had encountered in the tunnels. Asterisk, get inside, now. Asterisk, she shouted, her voice hoarse. Asterisk, that blast won't keep the big one away for long. Asterisk. Without hesitation, Sarah and Paul followed the woman as she led them into a nearby building, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. They climbed a rickety staircase, their hearts pounding, until they reached a floor that seemed relatively secure. Asterisk, we should be safe here. For now, asterisk, the woman said, her gaze sweeping the room. Asterisk, but we need to figure out a way to get the hell out of this city. Asterisk. Sarah nodded, her mind racing. Asterisk, that thing. The mutated creature. It's relentless. We can't keep running from it forever. Asterisk. The woman's expression darkened. Asterisk. I've seen those things before, in the tunnels. They're not like the normal infected. There's something else entirely, something more. Asterisk. Paul shuddered, his face pale. Asterisk, what are they? Asterisk. The woman shook her head. Asterisk, I don't know. But whatever they are, they're not going to stop until they've torn the city apart. Asterisk. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Asterisk. Then we have to find a way to stop them, before they destroy everything in their path. Asterisk. As they huddled in the relative safety of the room, the distant roars of the monstrous creature echoed through the city, a grim reminder of the nightmare that continued to unfold. The silence in the dilapidated room was deafening, punctuated only by the distant, ominous howls of the infected. Sarah, Paul, and the mysterious woman huddled together, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and determination. Asterisk, we need a plan. Asterisk, the woman said, her gaze sweeping the room. Asterisk, those things out there, they're not going to stop until they've reduced this entire city to rubble. Asterisk. Sarah nodded, her mind racing. Asterisk. We have to find a way to stop them, or at least get out of this city before they catch up to us. Asterisk. Paul chewed his lip nervously. Asterisk. But how? We're trapped, surrounded by those monsters. There's no way out. Asterisk. The woman's expression hardened. Asterisk. There's always a way out. We just have to be willing to take a risk. Asterisk. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope ignite within her. Asterisk. What did you have in mind? Asterisk. The woman's gaze darkened. Asterisk. I've seen those creatures up close, and I know their weaknesses. If we can lure them to a specific location, I might be able to take them down. Asterisk. Asterisk. But what are the rest of the infected? Asterisk, Paul interjected, his voice laced with worry. Asterisk. There's no way we can fight off an entire horde on our own. Asterisk. The woman's lips curled into a grim smile. Asterisk. Or said anything about fighting them head-on. Asterisk. Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline as the woman's plan began to take shape. Asterisk. You're talking about a distraction, aren't you? Asterisk. The woman nodded. Asterisk. Exactly. If we can lure the big ones away from the rest of the infected, we might just have a chance to escape this hellhole. Asterisk. Paul's eyes widened. Asterisk. But what if it doesn't work? What if we get caught in the crossfire? Asterisk. The woman's expression hardened. Asterisk. Then we die trying. But I, for one, am not about to give up without a fight. Asterisk. Sarah felt a surge of determination well up within her. Asterisk, I'm in. Asterisk, she said, her voice unwavering. Asterisk. If it means a chance at survival, I'm willing to take the risk. Asterisk. Paul looked between the two women, his face etched with uncertainty. But after a moment, he nodded, his jaw set with newfound resolve. Asterisk, all right. Then, asterisk, the woman said, a grim smile spreading across her face. Asterisk, let's get to work. Asterisk. As they began to formulate their desperate plan, the distant roars of the mutated creatures echoed through the city, a reminder of the peril that awaited them. The plan was risky, a desperate gamble in the face of an unstoppable nightmare. But for Sarah, Paul, and the mysterious woman, it was their only chance at survival. As they stepped out into the ruined streets, the infected swarmed towards them, their twisted forms shambling forward with single-minded purpose. But the woman held her ground, her rifle poised and ready. Asterisk, remember, asterisk, she said, her voice low and urgent. Asterisk, we need to lure the big ones away from the rest of the horde. Once they're separated, I'll take them down. Asterisk. Sarah and Paul nodded, their hearts pounding as they prepared to put the plan into motion. With a deep breath, they broke into a sprint, drawing the attention of the infected. The creatures howled and gave chase, their grasping claws reaching for their prey. The woman held her position, her finger tight on the trigger as she waited for the moment to strike. The mutated creatures, their hulking forms towering above the rest of the infected, broke away from the horde, thundering after Sarah and Paul. Asterisk, no. Asterisk, the woman shouted, unleashing a barrage of gunfire. The creatures roared in pain, their regenerative abilities overwhelmed by the relentless assault. Sarah and Paul ducked behind a crumbling wall, watching in awe as the woman's rifle tore into the mutated flesh. One by one, the creatures fell, their massive bodies crashing to the ground with earth-shaking impacts. The remaining infected, sensing the loss of their leaders, began to retreat, their cries and snarls fading into the distance. As the dust settled, Sarah and Paul emerged from their hiding place, their eyes wide with disbelief. Asterisk, you did it, asterisk, Sarah breathed, her voice tinged with awe. Asterisk, you actually did it. Asterisk. The woman lowered her rifle, her expression grim. Asterisk, for now. Asterisk, she said. Asterisk. But we need to get out of this city, and fast. Who knows how long it'll take for the infected to regroup and come back with a vengeance. Asterisk. Without another word, the trio set off, navigating the devastated streets with renewed purpose. The city still lay in ruins, the scars of the apocalypse etched into every crumbling building and shattered window. But for the first time since the nightmare began, they felt a glimmer of hope, a chance to escape the horror and find a safe haven, where they could rebuild and perhaps, one day, reclaim the world they had lost. As they reached the outskirts of the city, Sarah paused, casting one last, lingering look at the scene of destruction behind them. The future was uncertain, but for now, they had survived, and that was all that mattered. With a deep breath, she turned and followed the others, determined to forge a new path through the chaos that had consumed their world.